Hello guys, good morning. How are you guys?
Good morning. We are doing good, Aziz.
Okay, good morning. Okay, wonder where everyone is. Then once it's 11, we're going to start. You guys got my email, right? So today we are just still going to, I want to take time to explain the Docker file again. And just give some information, answer any questions you guys have. And we would move on to project 4. Most likely not next week. So next week, since next week is an holiday, we won't have class next week, but then after that, the week after we will have class. Since next week is Thanksgiving. All right. It's 11:01, so I guess that's everyone that's gonna be here. Let's just start. Okay. So let me see if anyone is in here waiting to join. Yeah. I'm so tired. All right. I think people probably think, or maybe it's because I did email you guys. I said that we would cover the Docker file again. So maybe that's why. It's okay. So it's for everyone's benefit.
Aziz, yeah. I
Yes,
didn't get that email though. The last email that you sent about that you were saying that you sent
for the
in quick.
Docker file.
Yes.
Okay, I'll check. Let me see right now. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. I just want to make sure your name is in my contact because I did add everyone. I think I know what the issue is. It's probably because your current subscription it's not the mentorship one, right? It's like the monthly one, right? So I think that's why your name wasn't coming up on my contact. It's okay. I'll add you. I think Mr. Henry is the same way too. Okay. I've saved your name, so next time I send the email, it should come up. All right,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. All right, everyone, let's start. Good morning. So, hi, Juliet. Good morning. How are you? Hope all is well. So I did send you guys an email for today, saying that today I want to use today to, first of all, just to mention, today's class is going to end in 2 hours. So I can't stay any longer than 2 hours, which is why, since we've got a lot of stuff done in the 3 weeks, so I figured why not use today for like a Q&A and also to revisit the Docker file that everyone was confused about last week. So that's the first thing. Today is just going to be, first I will explain the Docker file again. I have a simple version of the Docker file that corresponds with our project 2 script. But then I will show you the different stages of the Docker file, how I end up on the final Docker file that I gave you guys. And once we cover the Docker file, any other things, I think like some Git, I want to show you guys how to push stuff from Visual Studio Code using the icons here. Then after that, it will be Q&A. So that's the main thing we are going to do today. So any questions you guys have in general and questions from project 1 to 3, you can answer. Also for your project 3 assignment, since we're still covering the Docker file, you guys will have enough time to work on your project 3 assignment. So the main thing is I want you guys to understand the entire process. So that way, once we are done with Docker, there is no confusion and there is no doubt anywhere. The other thing is we won't have class next week since in the United States, next week is an holiday. So next week, there won't be any class. And the following week after, when we return, we will start the Kubernetes project. So from now till next week and the week after, you guys have all this time to pretty much revisit all the stuff we've done so far and spend more time on the Docker project if there's anything you don't understand on it, because this is the Kubernetes project will be the last hands-on project we will do in the management console. After that, I want to start the Terraform project. So we've done a good hands-on project in the management console. We did the static website. We did the dynamic website with EC2. Now we did the dynamic website with Docker, ECS, and we are going to do the dynamic website with Kubernetes. Once we've done those, complete those 4 projects, we would automate those projects again, but using Terraform. Then after that, we would pretty much do CI/CD, and we should pretty much be done with the project. We are pretty much almost done at that point. Then we probably only have 2 other projects, which is the Python project and the Ansible project. So remember, today we are just covering Hello, Ade. Adewale. So today, what I was saying is today we are just covering the Docker file and Q&A for any questions you guys have. Next week, there's no class because it's an holiday. And the following week when we return, I'll send you guys the email of the curriculum and everything. So you guys will have all the information for the Kubernetes project. But that will be not next week, the following week after, because next week is an holiday. All right. Before I start, does anyone have any question? Okay. All right, cool. So here I've kind of created three folders showing you guys to show you guys the different stages of the Docker file, right? Good morning, Daniel. The first thing I want to show you guys is our deployment script. So here, let me open our deployment script from project 2. So this is our deployment script from project 2, right? You guys remember the script. And I am going to open the simple Docker file, the one you guys requested. You guys give me just a second. Okay. So on the left, I have our deployment script from project 2. On the right, I have our Docker file, the simple one, right? The main thing I want to point out to you guys is that, which is when I was telling you guys last week that creating the Docker file is really not difficult. It's not difficult at all because it is things you already know. Since you guys already completed project 2 and you use your deployment script, right? It is the same thing you are doing on the Docker file. It is the same exact thing. The only difference is you are putting it in a instruction. Let's just call it Docker instruction. You are putting it in a format that Docker understands, right? Your deployment script, the same way we run it on the EC2 would not work in Docker, right? You have to put it in a format Docker understands. That's all you are doing. The whole concept of downloading your file, moving this from this directory to that directory, changing it, installing the software is the same thing you'll be doing, right? That's the first thing I want to explain. The second thing is that the file, you can call it a different file name, but the file must be called Docker file. If you name it a different file, so let's say when you run your Docker build command, Docker will look for a file called Docker file, which is, it starts with a capital D. Same thing you are seeing here. Right. All right, just a second, guys. I just want to make sure I am. Okay. Yeah. So Docker would look for a file called Docker file. It starts with a capital D right here. That's another thing I want to mention. Right. So now let's compare our Docker file with our deployment script from project 2. So this is the simple Docker file here. In the Docker file, the only thing we have to do is we have to select the base image we want to build the Docker file from. Remember, I showed you guys in Docker Hub last week that there are different images you can use, but since we are building stuff in AWS, we are using Amazon's base image because just similar to the Amazon Linux 2023 EC2, for Docker, Amazon also have an image for it that we can use, which is this Amazon Linux 2023 base image, right? So in your Docker file, you start with your base image. The next the next command here on the Docker file, this command is just saying that if there is anything in our Docker file that needs us to type yes for us to enter a prompt, it is going to automatically enter it for us. Because as you guys know, when we run our Docker file in the CI/CD, we won't have the opportunity to type yes or no. So at this point, since we are still going to rebuild this project using CI/CD, we want to start incorporating those things in our script so that when we get to the CI/CD process, everything is fully automated. So that's what this is doing. So you guys can now see in our deployment script in project 2, we set an environment variable. In our Docker file, we are setting our environment variable. It's the same exact thing we did before. So this is how you will set your environment variable in your deployment script from project 2, and in Docker file, this is how you have to set it. In that project 3's assets, you guys reference the link I included that has where you will find all the Docker instructions. For anything you are trying to do with Docker, if there is an instruction for it, you want to use that instruction. So for environment variables, to set environment variable, you start with env, all caps, and that's how you set it. So that's that part. So here we were just verifying it. We don't need to verify it in Docker since it is going to be running automatically in the prompt. So, I mean, we can add this, but we don't need to add it, right? So the next thing in this script is we are downloading our password from Secret Manager in our deployment script from project 2. But we are not doing that here because we are already hard coding our password here, our RDS password, and our personal access token. Things that we consider secrets, we already hard coded it here. And remember, I told you guys, I'm only showing you guys this method for simplicity. So that way, since this is the first time you guys are working on it, and I do apologize for unloading everything on you guys last week at the final stage. I should have just showed you guys the basic way because the first time I did it too, I did it like this. Then once I understood what I was doing, then I made it more secure. So I should have showed you guys this way before going into the final one. So we already had code our secret here, so that's why we don't need this in our Docker file. And I'll also show you why this part of it, we wouldn't include it in the Docker file. Which is why if you guys look at the, Mr. Larry, I'll get to you. Just give me a second. Which is why when you guys look in the build script that I gave you guys last week, this is in the build script, not in the Docker file. And I'll explain the reason why as we go. So you guys just keep that in mind. Mr. Larry, go ahead. What's your question?
The deployment script, how do you come up with that? Do you have a document for it, or how do you put them together? Like you did for the Docker file.
This deployment script is based on whatever you are trying to do. So whatever you are trying to do would dictate your script. So since we are installing a PHP application, there is pretty much, if you do a research on it, like just like Google it, you will find the steps, right? Okay. So to install PHP application, it will tell you need to install PHP and all these things. And you just write that down. You need to install whatever all the dependencies is. So that's how I come up with the script. It's based on whatever you are trying to do. And basically for anything you guys are trying to do, software-wise, you are trying to install a software on either an EC2 instance or Docker or whatever software you are trying to we'll have a documentation that explains exactly how you install it. And in most cases, they will even have the commands you need to run there. And that's the command you just copy and put in your script. So my script is there's a research that goes with the script, coming up with the script. You need to figure out, okay, what are the steps of things I need? Here, that's what I'm saying. In any of the scripts I'm giving you guys, that's why I'm giving you guys the high level knowledge, because that's what you guys need to understand.
Yeah, where I'm getting confused is the variable, the export.
The variable is just things we don't want to add code into our script that we want to make dynamic, right? The variable, I am creating that myself, calling it this name. So the variables are things that we would put in our script. Like these are values of different things that our script need. For example, our project name, the S3 bucket where we store our web files. So this one, I did explain it in the project too. So the where we store our web files. So I can hard code it in the command, but I don't want to hard code it in the command, because if I'm using it in a CI/CD environment, I want to be able to dynamically change this value. That's why I created an environment variable, create them as an environment variable.
Okay.
So this is just me. This is just when you create an environment variable, it is
okay.
Things you don't want to, values that are in your command that you don't want to hard code, and you can just create them as an environment variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. So moving on, right? Here in our deployment script, the next thing we did is we installed all the dependencies for all the softwares we need, right? And you can see in our Docker file, we did the same exact thing. You guys can see this command here, sudo yum update, right? In here, we are installing Git, and we are installing this, we are installing Git, we are installing unzip, and we are installing Git LFS. You guys know that in the project 2, we used S3 to store our application code. In project 3, we are using GitHub. The file for the GitHub is too big, so we had to use Git LFS to upload the file into our GitHub repository, right? Because we use Git LFS, we have to also install the Git LFS on our server to be able to download it. That's why we have the Git LFS here, and we didn't have it in the first one. In the first project 2, we weren't using GitHub. In project 3, we are using GitHub. You will only need Git LFS if that is what you use to upload the file, because the file was too big. If you just upload a regular file, not using Git LFS, probably through the web console or through just pushing it, then you don't need to install this. But because we use Git LFS, that's why we need to install this. That's why this is here. On this here, we are installing Git and unzip because the image we are using, those softwares does not come with it. The base image we are using does not come with Git or unzip. But on the EC2 instance we were using in project 2, Git and unzip already comes with it. That's why we didn't install it. So that's the only difference in the commands you are seeing here. But other than these two commands, you can see the rest is the same exact thing you did here. So you can see same exact commands. The only thing we change is if you want to run a command, instead of doing sudo, right? In Docker, you do run. You enter run, and it is the same exact command. So once we install the dependencies for our server, the next thing is we are going to upload our code to the container. And it is the same exact thing as what we did here, concept-wise, right? So here we copied in project 2, we copied the code from our S3 bucket. Then we change our directory into the HTML directory, where we unzip the code and we moved all the file into the HTML directory. Same thing, you guys remember, because you guys are already a professional by now, because I saw you guys' assignment. A lot of you guys did your project 2 assignment. So I am confident that you guys understand that whole project 2 process, right? So the same thing we did there is the same thing we are doing in our Docker file. We need to, once we have installed the server dependencies, the software our application needs to run, we need to now copy our application code. But the only difference is this time we are copying it from GitHub repository, not S3. I did it intentionally to show you guys the two process. First, we use S3, but at work, most likely your company will be using GitHub or any type of a version, maybe like GitLab or Bitbucket. They'll be using just a version control. It won't most likely be in S3. So this time we are copying it from GitHub. So first thing we did is, so here we change our directory here, but you can choose to change your directory anytime you want. It does not really matter, right? The main thing is just making sure you are copying the zip file into the HTML directory. So here we change our working directory to the HTML, which is equivalent to what we did here. Then we cloned the repository, right? Which is equivalent to what we did here. And we need this because once we clone the repository, this is what we use. Since we use git lfs to upload a large file, you need this command to pull the actual file. So pretty much you need these two together. So we copied, let's just say you use these two to copy the application code into the HTML directory, right? So once you copy, because you are in the current directory, this command we are running here, that has this period here. What that is saying is to copy the code that I'm copying into the exact directory that I'm currently in. So that's what that command is doing. So once we copy the zip file into the HTML directory, we unzip it, same exact thing as what we did here. And once we unzip it, we'll copy the code out of the unzipped version into the HTML, same exact thing we did here. And once we copy the application code, we remove the file, we remove the zip file we downloaded and the one we unzip. Same exact thing here in the Docker file, same exact thing as we did in project 2. So you guys can see it is the same exact script you guys are converting to Docker file. In Docker, you are not doing anything different. So which is why I said the concept is what you should understand of what are you trying to do, right? So once we've done that, moving on, we set permissions on this directory. Same exact thing we did in our build script. Same exact thing we did in Docker. Then once we set the permission, we are going to update our env file with the values for our RDS database and endpoint, pretty much your RDS credentials and any other thing, right? Same exact thing we did in project 2 is the same exact thing we are doing in Docker. You can see it's the same command, but we just use run instead of sudo. And once we've done that, we copied the app service provider file into the directory so that when we redirect our traffic from HTTP to HTTPS, there won't be any misconfiguration on our server. Same thing we did there is the same thing we are doing here in the Docker file. So you guys can see everything we did in our deployment script is the same thing we are doing in Docker. I keep saying it over and over so you guys can understand that with Docker, don't be afraid of it and just think of it. It's something you've already done. If you've already completed project 2, you pretty much are halfway with the Docker deployment. The only thing is you just need to convert your project 2 deployment script to a instruction Docker understand, a format Docker understands. So the last part here is in our deployment script, we start our server, right? In Docker, it is not really straightforward to start your server like that, right? So these are the things you have to do that I found for this project that you have to do. First, you have to expose the port. So we are exposing port 80, which is how the users on the internet will access our application. And we also open port 3306, which is the port for our RDS database. Then here, this is just some configuration we need to do on Docker. This is not really important. If you don't have this there, it's not going to fail. But I saw the warning sign after I deployed the container, and I did a research on it. It said I just need to install this to configure it. So that's why I have that one there. It's not really that important. So this two is not really that important. Okay. But the main thing we are trying to do here is on the EC2, we start our service. We have to start the Apache service for everything to work.
Excuse me, please. Sorry, Azeez.
Yes, sir.
You said on line 117 on the Docker file, set local environment variable. So what does the meaning of this MVL? Is it language, USA, or whatever? I don't understand this.
Yeah, so this is just a setting on the container that you need to have for this. It's probably either a time frame or something, but it's just a setting you need to have on it. If you don't configure, it's not going to fail. It is really not important. I just add it because the warning will be there. It's not something that's really important.
Okay.
Okay. So the main thing we did on the EC2 instance is we start our service. So the main thing you want to do on Docker 2 is start your service. So let's say ignore this for now. This, like I said, this is just an extra thing I added, right? The main thing you want to do on Docker is start your service, right? So to start our service in Docker, I noticed that there isn't like a command you can just use, like you can't just run systemctl on Docker to start the service, right? So to start the Docker service, you have to this FPM, FPM also needs to start. And that's where I was running into the issue because I was able to start the Apache, but the process, the same command, which is this command, right? This command will start the Apache, but this command does not start this PHP FPM. But on an EC2 instance, when we run systemctl, it would start every single thing, including that PHP FPM. It would start the whole thing. I don't know all the details behind it. I just know I ran into an issue when I was deploying Docker, and after spend like a week on it, that was what I found, right? After troubleshooting. So when you run systemctl on an EC2, it will start everything, including the PHP files. But on Docker, when you run this, it is only going to start the Apache service. It is not going to start this. And you can't run this command, right? This is the command you run to start the Apache service. You can't have this command there twice. You can only have it once. So the workaround is to create a script, which is this script you guys are seeing, that has all the list of the things you want to do. So you guys can see in this script, I created a directory for the PHP FPM. That's based on the research I did. That's what you need to do. Then I now start the service. So I started the PHP FPM and I started Apache. So that's how you start those services. Same concept, but different process. Like same concept, but just slightly different how it is done, right? So once I add that to the script, my command here, right? The first thing I did is I copied the script. So the script has to be in the same directory your Docker file is in, right? So I copied the script into my Docker area. So that's what this is doing. This is copying the script from your local into your Docker area. Once it has copied the script, we now set the permission on the script. Remember, any script you guys are working on in Linux, you need to set the permission to be able to execute the script. So that's what this is doing. This is setting. This line is, so anytime you guys say sudo, not sudo, chmod plus X, that means you are making the script executable. It is very important. When you create new script, you have to run this. This only applies to Mac users and Linux users, right? Anytime you create a script, you need to make the file executable. So you have to run this command. So we are running chmod on the script I created, which is the start service.sh. So once we make the script executable, we are also, cleaning up the script, because since I created that script on a Windows computer, sometimes Windows will add some characters in it. Remember in project 2, when I was running some command, it was failing. That's exactly why it was failing. Because Windows will add some invisible end of the line character on the command. You won't see it, but when you copy paste it into the thing, into like a Linux environment, it will fail. It's not because the command is wrong, but because there's like a hidden character there that Windows has add, that just a formatting thing is like a known issue. So we want to run, when you run this command, you are removing any hidden character that Windows may have add unintentionally to that script. Because since we created it on a Windows computer and we are trying to go run it in a Mac area, that's just an issue with going from Windows to Mac. So this command will clean the file up. Then we just start the service. So when we run this command will run our script, which contains starting the FPM service and also starting Apache. And that is it, right? So that is the Docker file. Before I move on to like how to run it, does anyone have any question?
Yes, I do have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So while I was trying to replicate the whole project, I did run into a lot of issues. And one of the major issues I ran into was the fact that we had two repositories for the project. Why did we have two repositories on GitHub for the same project?
Okay. So the first repository is where we are storing our application code. So let's say this is your first repo. This is where we are storing our application code. Let's just say app code. Sorry for the jargons, right? So let's say repository 1. We are storing our application code. This is strictly just for your application code. The second repository is where we are uploading our Docker file. Our Docker file and any other, or pretty much everything you are seeing here. Docker file, our script to build any script we need to build the image. That's what we are uploading in project 2, in repository 2. So this is the actual repository for our project. This is just a repository where we are storing the application code. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, is this the normal standard? Like you have to create two repositories to store your code and then one for Dockerfile? Or
Yes.
Can we use a single repository for everything?
No, it's two different repositories because this repository, okay, this is you as a cloud engineer. I'm sorry for using my mouse. This thing is always, you guys get the gist. This is you as a cloud engineer. And you are tasked with creating this application on AWS. So you create your own repository, you write your Docker file and everything to build the image. This here, another team may be working on it. This could be the software engineering team that's working on it. So in their repository, they are working on this application code. They are always making changes to it. Maybe there's a new update with the software, they update it and they are pushing their own updates into their repository. So you as a cloud engineer, you create your Docker file to download their application code from their repository to be able to deploy it in AWS. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So that's why you won't have everything in one repository because the application code needs to, because they are going to be cloning things from that repository. They're going to be cloning, different engineers will be working on it, right? It wouldn't, your Docker file can't live in the same repository as theirs. So it's just good to separate it. So application code, first repository is for application code. The second repository is the actual repository for your project. Think of this first repository as equivalent to when we store the application code in S3 for project 2. Right. So in project 2, we stored our application code in S3. We are downloading it from S3. It's the same thing we are doing here. The other repository is the repository for your actual project where your Docker file would be. So is there any part of it you don't understand? Like, what were you having issue with?
I actually created a single directory on GitHub and I initialized it. I ran into an issue because the file would not upload. I had to, go back and do the LFX thing, and I was able to fix that, but it took me a couple of time. But after that, I was trying to upload all the files in a single repository, and because I only watched the video once, so I don't want to use it because if I keep using it, that thing will probably not stick. There's a lot of information that we need to remember. So I tried doing it without the video. So I forgot the part that I have to create two repositories and then I have to go back again, doing a lot of troubleshooting. So the app code was in a different repository and it was a lot, but I figured out that I have to create two. So, but I was wondering why all of them can't live in the same repositories. And then one of the reasons that I thought was the fact that, okay, maybe because we are uploading a large file and then we don't want to have the same environment with, the Docker file. So when I started working on it, I moved the next app code. Yeah, I added it on the environment. So I added it and then I was working everything, but something was just off. So I had to go back and, recheck, okay, this one was not supposed to be added. I was supposed to upload it in GitHub first and then create another environment that I'll be working on for the code. And
Okay. So what you did is, well, and that is good in terms of like, if you want to, if you guys feel like there's like a better way you think you can do it, the main thing I just want is that if you work on it in a certain way, understand why you are doing it that way. So what you are doing is actually not wrong, but the way I did it is, there's like, again, there's no right or wrong way, but most likely once you start working, right, where the code will live will be a separate area than where your Docker file, because it could be an entire team that's working on the application code, not you, because you don't have the software engineering skills to build the code, right? So you wouldn't, your Docker file will not be in the same repository. Your Docker file will be in your own repository, while the application code, the code you need for the application you are trying to deploy, will be in a repository for the application team. So let's say in your case, you put the application code in the same repository as your Docker file, right? In that case, when you put your application code in the same repository and you clone that repository, right? It will look something like this. So let me just create, so let's say this is the repository and you clone it, right? It will look something like this. And just create, right? So when you clone your repository, you will have the nest zip, and you will have your Docker file, you will have the app service provider, and you will have your start service, the same thing, right? So your zip file for your application code is already in the same directory you are running your Docker file from. So in that case, in your Docker file, you are not going to run git clone. You understand? You are not going to run here. You are not going to run git clone. Because your file is already there, you can just copy the file. You see how here, how we copied our app service provider file? You see our app service provider file that is already here, and we just use the copy to copy it. The same thing for the script. You see here how our start script is already here, and we just copied it. It's the same thing you are going to do here. So here, you are not going to run git clone, because you already cloned the repository and you are already in the repository, right? And the zip file will already be there. So you just copy the zip file into your Docker area and proceed to unzip it. So I'm saying if you did it that way, that's how you have to run the command here. Does that make sense now?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to do it that way, I think for simplicity, for you guys to understand stuff, it does make sense to do it that way. But I'm showing you guys the different repository, because most likely it will be, since it's going to be a different team that's working on the application code, it needs to live in a different directory than in a different repository than the same repository your Docker file is in. So that's what you need to do there. All right. Does anyone else have any question? Okay. So one thing I didn't, and last week I gave you guys a script. So you guys, and even people on YouTube, can you guys verify? So there's no confusion with the Docker file now, right? You guys understand how to build a Docker file. At least, I mean, I know you guys will probably have to practice it, but compared to what I showed you guys last week, you guys, it makes sense now that what we did in project 2 is the same exact thing we are doing in project 3, right? For the Docker file, we are not doing anything new. Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys.
Hello.
Just a second.
Okay.
You guys understand that there's no difference in it. It's just going from one project to another. Okay, thank you for confirming. I just want to make sure. Good. And you guys here too, you guys understand the difference between going from your build script from project 2 to project 3, right? Like build script to Docker, like you understand like the minor things you have to do, but it's the same concept. All right. I'm not sure who had the question. Please go ahead.
Yeah. What I want to find out in the other script, the Docker file from last week, we have something like the AUG, the I think the build argument.
Yeah.
So that Docker file, I used it, a couple of times, but it was not working with the personal access token. But the new one that you sent, I used that one, and then I was able to, get through with the project.
Mhm.
So, but somewhere there with the other one, it says don't use the I put it to ChatGPT and it says don't use the build argument to run the file. So I wanted to make sure if, you know, what's the difference here? Like, is it a must to use that, or if it's not a good,
Okay.
practice to use that AUG?
Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do is show you guys the Docker file in the simplest form. We will get the next, then we would take it a step further, then we will talk about the build arguments, why the build arguments end up in there. So I
Okay.
will still explain it, right? So first thing is just seeing the Docker file in the simplest form. So let me just cover this now, right? So I know last week I gave you guys the script, but forget the script, right? I'm not saying forget the script, but for now, if you want to, once you create your Docker file, let's say you just want to build your Docker file, right? Whatever directory your Docker file is in, you right click on it. This is how I always do it. And I would click open integrated terminal. That just means my terminal will open into the same directory my Docker file is in, because you need to be running the Docker command from exact directory that your Docker file is in, or when you run the command, if it's not in the same directory, you have to point to tell it where the Docker file is. But it's just easier to run it in the same directory. So that's what this command is doing. So when that's what when I right click on the Docker file and open the integrated terminal, you can see it is opening my terminal into the Nest app, which is where my Docker file is. Right. So if you want to build the image, I also give you guys this reference file. This reference file. Just a second. This reference file that has the process to build an image. So here. The command you have to run is docker build, right? Docker build, that's the Docker command to build an image. Then you put -t. So here I can run docker build, not one word, two word. Docker build -t. That -t stands for tag, right? So what you want to do is you want to give your Docker image a name and your Docker image a tag. The tag is not as important. If you don't give it a tag, it's just going to tag it latest. And this period you guys are seeing here is telling it that the Docker file is in the same directory that I'm running the command from. So this is the command to build your Docker image. I know I gave you guys a script last week and you guys were just like, I just want to show you, let's say you have a Docker file you want to build. The command would be docker build, the tag -t for the name of the Docker file, and the directory path to the directory, right? So before I run this command, I already built a Docker image on my computer. And I know Juliet had that question last week. For those of you that your computer is full, and once you build an image, you want to clear your computer, right? If you want to clear an image from your computer, you can run this command. But this command will remove every single image you've built on your computer, all of them. It will remove every single image. So if you just want to remove a particular image, I can find the command for you, but this command will remove every single image. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Okay. Because anytime you get this, you need to make sure that Docker is start. So because the Docker service is not start on my computer, that's why I'm getting that error. So I'm first going to start Docker by clicking on the desktop icon to start the service here. Let me see, I'm not sure. Let's just hope my Docker starts because I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure why. I'm sure if I stop and stop and restart, that will work.
I was running into this same issue. I think there's a
Maybe
bug on Docker window that even if you quit the app, it will be running a background process, and when next you want to restart the program without entirely stopping the background process, it will not start.
Okay.
So I ran into that problem a couple of times the first day. So I had to be clearing it, using a code.
Oh, I see. That's the first time I'm running into that. I know if I restart, it will probably fix it, but I don't want to restart. Let's see if that comes up again. Maybe it's telling me to run that code. Let's see. That's the first time I'm seeing that. That's weird. Come on.
It won't start. You have to clear it with the code.
Okay. Do you have the code?
Let me quickly get it for you.
Okay, thank you. That is so weird. That's the first time I'm coming out running into that. Okay, it started now. That's weird. It started. Okay. So first thing, make sure Docker is start, right? Then let me show you the command you will use to see any image on your Docker is Docker image ls. So if you type Docker image ls, you'll see all the image you have on your computer that you built, right? So let's say you want to clear, there's a command you can use to delete each individual image if that's what you want to do. But for me, I don't want all this image. I'll just delete everything. So that's why I always just use this command. So this command will delete all the images. So I run that command. It is removing all the images. I'll just give it a second. And there you go. So now if I type Docker image ls again and press enter, you can see I don't have any image. So Juliet, that's how you can clean your computer of any image if you say you were run out of space, right? So remember now I said the command to build an image is Docker build, then -t for the tag, then you give it a name, whatever name you want to call the image. So the application is Nest. I'll call the image Nest. So now let's say you want to tag it, right? You now put this colon and you can now tag it. You can now tag it, can see the example here. You can tag it latest, or you can type it version 1, V1, you can type it V2, you can type it V3, you can tag it pretty much whatever you want. You can put number, you can put latest. So I'll just use latest, right? then space, period, meaning that the Docker file is in the same directory that I'm running the command from. Then once you type this and press enter, you can see I'm building the Docker image. So here I'm showing you the process to build an image and push an image into ECR. So now once we build the image, we are going to push the image into ECR. So it's building the image, is probably going to just run it. And another thing you guys should notice is like in the output, you can see the commands that are showing here are the same commands we have in our Docker file. So it is going through those commands one by one and it is executing them. So sometimes it is good for troubleshooting. If it fails somewhere, right? You know where it fails. Example, like that failed over there. And I know why it failed because my personal access token, my personal access token is most likely wrong. When I was sending the thing out, I think I just put like some random personal access token there. So let me log into my management console and get my actual personal access token and update it. So I'm glad that happened because now you guys can see sometimes when you are running it, if it fails, you can see it failed on the command where it is running git clone. Just a second, let me just get my personal access token and I would update it there. Personal access token here. Okay. I'll save my Docker file and I'll run it again. I'll run my build again. So while this is going on, because we have limited time, so I'm building the image now, right? The next thing we are going to do once after we build the image is we will push the image to ECR, and the process to push the image is after you've built it. Let me just scroll down here. First, you have to create an ECR repository. So if a repository is not there, you run this command to create an ECR repository. So here we are using AWS CLI to create a repository. If a repository is there, you can just go straight into pushing your image to it. But if you don't have a repository, first you need to create a repository. Then this is the command. The command is Amazon ECR create repository. Then this is the flag repository name. And here is the name of the repository. This is a flag for region. And here you just specify the region. So here in this command, anytime you guys see this caret here, caret, 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 caret. So that's telling you that in this command, those are the values you just need to change. You need to add your own actual values, what they mean there, right? So you create a repository, and for sake of time, we are not going to do it, but I'm just showing you guys. You create a repository. Once you create a repository, right, you will now have to tag your Docker image that I'm building, the Docker image that I'm building now, that you are building. Once it is done, you will now have to tag it to the repository. It's the process. If you look in any documentation, that is how it's done. So, and this is the command. So you can see the command is Docker tag, image name, and image tag. That is the image you just built. So that would be the nest that I just built, and the tag I gave it was latest. And you will now tag it to your repository. So all this address you are seeing here is your repository URI. So which is always starts with like your account ID. And these values are always the same, the region and the name of the repository. So here we are just tagging it to. So in this command, you just need to add your account ID. and add your account ID, the region, and the name of the repository and latest. You can pretty much do the same thing. So you are saying, I'm always building my latest command and I'm pushing into my repository, right? So once you tag it, once this is done, I can run this and you guys will see it there. You will see it on your local area. Once you now tag it, the next thing you need to do is authenticate. You have to authenticate to your ECR. In order to push an image, you need to authenticate. So this is the command to authenticate. Once you now authenticate, you will now push the image you tagged. Remember, you will now have two images on your computer, the one you built and the second one that you tagged to your repository. So when you are pushing the image, you are pushing the second one you tagged to your ECR repository. That's why you see here, the command is docker push. Then it is pretty much the same URI of the repository that you retagged. And once this is done, I can show you guys. I think this is done. Sorry, the Zoom thing is in my way. Right, perfect. So you guys can see, I'm glad this happened. This is the reason why I didn't give you guys the Docker file this way. So you can see here, after building our image, it is already giving us two warnings. Two warnings found. It is finding secrets in our Docker file. Personal access token and RDS password. Two warnings, right, that we shouldn't have in our Docker file. So that's one thing I want you guys to note. I'm just going to type Docker image ls. So you can see the image I built. So now if I run, I think I already have an ECR repository. So I'm just going to show you guys that ECR repository here. And I'm just going to, remember, if you don't have a repository, the first command you will run is to create a repository. But if you have a repository, you can use it. We're going to assume I already create the repository. So I just want to show you guys the repository here. So you can see the repository is here, right? So what I'm doing here with this command is I have to tag this image. I don't know why this Zoom thing is always in the way. This image to the repository I just showed you that I created in ECR. So the command is docker tag, the name of the image, right? The name of the repository, and the tag latest. That's what you are seeing here, docker tag latest, and the address to the repository. This is it. You can see that repository I showed you is also called Nest, and I just want to tag it latest, right? So I'm going to copy this command. Just to show you guys something. Paste it here, press enter. So I've retagged it. So now if I type docker image ls again, you can see now we have two images, right? The one we built and the one we tagged to our ECR. This is the one we are pushing to the ECR repository. That's how the process works. So that's why I want to point that out. So once you retag it here, when you are pushing it with the docker push, you can see we are running docker push and the same address. We retagged it, which is what you are seeing here. With the tag latest. So it's the same thing. So that's the process to build and push an image. So for time's sake, let's just move on. So you guys understand the whole process to build and push your image, right? No confusion.
Azeez.
Yes.
Question. So this whole process you just explained, from pruning the old image and walking down all the way to tagging the new, building the new image and tagging it, and up to this moment, this is like updating a new version of an image.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So if it is a brand new repository you are creating, you will just be uploading, you will just be pushing the first version. right? So that's a good observation. So let me show you guys here in ECR. You can see here, if I go into this repository, you can see this is the first time I pushed an image into this repository, right? When you push new image, it would just create a new version of that image. And whatever the latest thing that changed on that image, that's the only thing it would include. And this is a good question for the sake of time, because I can't stay past 1 today. So we only have like 50 minutes. So I want to make sure I cover everything I need to cover. One thing I will explain real quick, you guys can do a research on it. One thing you guys should understand about Docker is that Docker has these things called layers. It's like this image digester you guys are saying. I mean, we probably won't be able to see it here in ECR, but maybe if we look in Docker Hub, we'll be able to see it. So what happens is that, and you guys would notice the behavior of your Docker image, right? So just one thing I want you guys to understand is Docker has these things called layer. This is how it works. I'm just going to, for simplicity, let's say this is your Docker image. The first time you build your Docker image, you run sudo yum update. Let's say you run, for for simplicity, let's just say you run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? These are the commands you run. Let's say 1 is sudo yum update. This is copying this, that is doing that, right? The next time you go and let's say now in your Docker image, you now add 1, 2, like this is your Docker image, but in your Docker image, you remove 3. You remove 3, you remove command 4, and there's command 5 there, but now you add command 6, 7. So when you rebuild your image, Docker is not going to build the 1 again or the 2 again because it's already there before. It is just going to, it keeps track of what you already have. So it is going to just know that, okay, the 3 and 4 is not there, remove that, and now add the 5 and 6. So now let's say this is the latest version of your image, and you now went and add more command. You add in your new one, you have everything here. You now add 8, 9, 10. The next time you go build your image, Docker is just going to add a new layer for 8, 9, and 10. That's how it works. So all those layers, any layer you built there, when we use AWS base image, there was already some layers there for whatever AWS has already built in there. When you now run your command, you are not overriding their own layer. So just think of everything as a layer. You are not overriding their own layer. You are adding your own layer to it. That's why in Docker, you will see that there is layers. The Docker images, they have layers. And the layers are nothing more than just the commands you run on it to build your image. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Please let me know, because I don't have time. We don't have a lot of time today.
Aziz, does that mean it works like updates on softwares?
Yes, I don't understand the whole entire process of updating software, but I can assume it's the same thing. So basically what I'm saying is that whatever command you run on Docker image, right? The next time you modify your Docker image, if the previous command you run still is there, it will leave that there. It will only just update whether what you removed or add new ones to it. So it is never overriding the layer that is already there. It is just always adding new layers to it, which the layers will be based on whatever additional new commands you are adding to the image.
Yes, that is it. It works exactly like the updating softwares, because when there is a new update available, you are not obliged to remove the last version. You can just update to the latest version, or keep the previous version. I think it's the same.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
So so that's how Docker image works. So that's where you guys see this SHA thing. If we have a place where we can visualize the layers of the image, you will see it there. you will actually see on each of the image, each of the layer, you will see the actual command that was run. So each of these commands what I'm saying is each of these commands on our Docker file, just a second, each of these commands on our Docker file, each of these commands, sudo yum, this, everywhere we have run, I'm saying that is creating an individual layer on the image. If you now add additional commands there, these don't get override. It will just keep adding those new layers in that order. That's how it works. All right, go ahead. Someone has a question.
Yes. I think if you go to Docker desktop and you click on the image, you can find the layers with the comment over there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So you guys can see the layers I was talking about. So you guys can see, right, the environment variables, right, that we set. And you can see the commands we run on zip, sudo yum update on zip, pretty much all the commands that we run. So the layers go all the way to 37. That's how it works. Thank you. I don't really usually look at it in here, but thank you. That's exactly how it works. So it's just the commands you run is what is forming the layers. That's it. So now this brings us to, so I've explained the Docker file, and I've also explained how to build and push your image. Remember now what I said, that we were already getting a warning sign that says don't include personal access token and things like that. The reason why you don't want to have your Docker file in the format that I just gave you guys is because of this. This is a good segue into this, because anything you run in there would show up in the layer. And you can see in the layer here, it is showing up. My personal access token is already there. So if someone is using your image, because this is Docker Hub, this is probably a public repository. You guys can go find this image now, right? And someone will have access to all my secrets because they will be able to see these layers. So that is why I didn't give you guys the Docker file in this form. So now that brings us to, and another thing is, yes, the image, the layer is dead. Another thing is also that this Docker file, let's say you upload this Docker file. Who was I? I think it's Mr. Abel. So Mr. Abel had this repository and everything, right? If I push this image, which I already did, which I shouldn't have done, right? But it's okay. If I push this image into my repository now I have now upload personal, well, my repository is private, but if I push this image into my repository, it means that anybody that has access to that repository will also see your personal access token and this and that here. So that's the reason why we don't have this. Now, this brings us into the second way we can do it. The second way we can do it is, instead of hard coding our values into this Docker file, we will use build argument, which is this. So you can see previously we had the env, and we said env equals this. Let me show you them side by side so you can see. So you can see previously we had env, and we said env equals this, env equals that. Now, instead of saying env equals this, env equals that, we remove those values 100% from our Docker file. So that way, when we have this Docker file on the right, which is the second version of the Docker file, so I'm building it slowly to show you how I end up on the final Docker file I gave you guys. So if we remove these values from the Docker file, now we have a Docker file that is clean, that doesn't have any secrets, any value in there, that at the least we can upload into our GitHub repository. At the least we can share with someone else, and they wouldn't have access to any of our secrets. So So the difference is these same things you see here, we create them as a build argument. So the build arguments means that when we are running that command I just showed you guys to build our image, docker build -t is still the same command. We will now specify the value of project, value of environment, value of record name, value of domain name. So every single value you are seeing here, you are telling Docker that I am going to enter this value when I am building my image. This method protects you from hard coding it in your image right here. So anyone you share your Docker file with will see it. You understand? This does not protect you from the layer. Whatever you build there will still show up in the layer. But this protects you from when you share this Docker file, just having your values hard coded like this. So we just set the build argument. You can see this build argument is the same exact thing as everything here. So we just say build argument this. And this build argument means that when we are running the Docker build, we will add the value ourselves. So all these values you are seeing here, we will add it during the process of building the image. Then the only other thing we did is once you have your build argument, in your Docker file, you now set the build argument, right? The build argument you created here, this is it. You now set the build argument equals to the environment variable. So you see, these are the environment variable, the same thing we did here. So these are what you are seeing here. So we said we are going to specify the actual value here. And you are saying when I specify the actual value, when I'm creating the Docker image, they will be equal to this environment variable. So project name. So you just pretty much keep them the same name. The $1, I believe that's your environment variable, and this is the build argument. So you are saying whatever value I enter for project name here, it will be equals to this environment variable. And in our code, project name, environment variable is used here. Does that make sense? So that's what we are doing in this second version of the image. Any questions? Is it clear? Please,
Yes, I have
let
one
me get a
question.
yes or no. Go ahead.
The question is, so that the variable file, basically the argument and the answers to the argument, which is in the variable file, what file, where on the left column, don't you create a file that is in your local workspace, that's your machine, that it gets the argument or the answers of the arguments for the environment variable? Where is it on the left side of the
This one
Explorer?
here.
Yeah.
We don't have to get, so these are two different Docker files. So this is the first Docker file I showed you guys, right? Right. In this Docker file, we already hard coded all the values in there. So we don't need a build argument.
No, I'm not saying the build argument. Like, since you did you created an argument right there because you don't want to expose all the passwords and all the variable info answers to this vital information. So don't you create a file where it fetches the answers for these build arguments?
Yes, we do. Yes, I'm going to get to that.
Okay,
Yes.
I think I'm ahead of
Yeah,
myself.
yes.
Sorry.
Yes. So you're thinking on the right track. Yes, I'm going to get to that. But I'm just saying, like, you guys understand why we went from this version to this version now. That's like, let me just get a yes, you understand, no, you don't understand.
Yes, Azeez.
Okay, cool. On YouTube, you guys understand. So I'm showing you, these are two different versions of Docker files. So, okay, perfect. So now to say what Victor was saying, right? So in this version of our Docker file where we have the build argument, that is why I end up on the script, right? So you guys can see in this script. So let me just close this first Docker file because we don't need it anymore. So, and I'll move our script here. and our new Docker file here, right? So remember we said now during the Docker image build is when we will specify the values, right? So this is how we are doing it, which is the file you were talking about. So here we have a separate script, because one thing I want to point out is you guys can see here, it is still the same command, Docker build -t image name, image tag, and the current directory where the Docker file is in, the period. The same command I showed you guys, the same command, but in between those, you specify your build argument. So the values you specify here, in between, you specify it here. So, and this is how you do it. You just say build argument, the name of the build argument equals here. So here, right, in this command, I can say build argument project name, nest. I can put nest here. Nest here, I can put dev here. I can put my domain name here, right? But I created it this way, so that way, when you look up here, it is easy for you to just update everything you need to update up here. So that way you don't keep messing with this command. Because in the past, when I used to have people change it here, they always end up accidentally deleting something. So I figure it makes sense to not mess with the command, just have a separate where we are defining the values of those environment variables, the value of those build arguments. So here we are defining the values of the build argument, and now we are just setting it here. But let's say you didn't want to do this, you just remove this project name and you actually put nest environment, whatever the values are here, it would work, right? So here is just to make it simple for you guys. So that's how we end up on this second version, which is we are running the build, right? This in software development or whatever you may call it, right? These commands is all one line. Is all one line. But when your command starts getting too long that it is going out of the screen, how you guys can do it is for every space in your command, like for example, build argument, and the value of the build argument is one space in our command, right? For every space, you can now add on Windows is a backtick, this single thing you are seeing here, right? But on Mac, it would be like a backslash, right? So you can now add this to tell it that this is all one line, but instead of this command just going like this horizontally, I'm just going to arrange them here. This is for visual purpose to be able to see it. But when we run this command, the shell is interpreting it as a one line because it is a one line. That's another thing I want to mention, right? When they get to, because like this, it gets too long. That's why we have to use, on Windows, you use backtick like this. On Mac, you use backslash. So this is just saying, put the next build argument on a new line. Is a new line, new line, new line. But when you run it, it is interpreting it as one line. Does that make sense? That's another thing I want to point out. So that's why you guys see it here. So the question is like, it makes sense to do it this way, right? Because this is why we have a script for it, because every time we run our Docker file, right, we are not going to be typing build argument, project name. Imagine if you had to type this every single time you build your image. That's why I ended up creating a script for it, that every single time I just run the script and it would build it for me. And if anything changed, I just need to change the value here. So that is how we end up on the script, on the version 2 of our Docker file. Does that make sense, guys?
And this is how you create a repeated like script instead of based on like version control. I mean, I say version control, change of versioning to an updated version. This like sequence of changing leaving the code the same, but changing different
Exactly.
source points. Okay.
Exactly. So
All right.
now, if let's say we want to build similar application, similar PHP application, for example, now when you guys go to work on your homework assignment, so I'm kind of giving you guys the hint, right? You don't even have to you don't even have to do your Docker file again. You already have a Docker file. You just copy your Docker file into that repository. You're not changing anything here. You're just creating a copy of the script and updating only the value here, and you'll build your Docker image specific to that homework assignment project. So it does have a benefit for doing it this way, right? So now let's build this image this way. We have 30 minutes. So I think I can be done in 15. So I'm going to open my integrated terminal, right? So I'm building this second image. So this time I'm running my build script. So to run a script, it will be // because I'm telling it my script is in the same directory. And my script is going to, you know what, let me do this. I'm going to remove the push part because I don't want to push. I just want to build. We already understand the push is the same. Every process in the push is the same. So I'm just going to comment out the push part for now. So, because I include both in one script. And at the end of the class, I'll send you guys all this one, but I just want to show you guys. So now I want to build this image, right? So I'm just going to run my script, which is // and the name of the script. So if you start to type the name of any script in your directory, if you type part of the name and you press the tab key, it is going to find the name and complete it for you. So all I did is I just typed part of build, press tab, and it completed. Then now if I press enter, it is building my image. I don't know if the values here is up to date, but if it fails, I would fix it. So it's building the image. One thing I want to point out is remember the benefit of building our Docker image like this. The benefit is so that we don't hard code it, the value into our Docker file directly, this way we did it with the first one. In this one, we can share this Docker file with someone and anyone can use it. It is dynamic. You can use it from one application to another application. Every single application can reference this same Docker file. It's only that their build script will be different. But the issue with this Docker file, as you guys are going to see, is that where the values we specify in the build argument that we are using to build the Docker file will still show up in our Docker layer. That's why I'm building it. So when we go check the layer, we will still see the values there. So that is that disadvantage is still there. Do you guys understand? Anyone have any question while we are waiting for the Docker file to finish building before we move on to the next one?
So what you're saying basically is, in case of security purposes, and you're doing a log review, because of is a repeated layer, you're not capable of seeing that the repeated build you did at the second time. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm saying that yes, the build that I'm doing, the new build that I'm doing, is going to override. So whatever has changed, because I'm using build argument now, so it's going to pretty much override everything and now have the build argument, and the layers will be different, right? Because I added build argument.
Okay.
But I'm saying that when we go review the layer, we are still going to see our secrets in the layer.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes. Okay, got you.
So this helps us having our Docker image, having our Docker file in this format helps us solve one of the problems, which is we have a Docker file we can share. There's no hard-coded value in it, but it does not solve the layer part of it, where someone that has access to the image we built from the Docker file can still see our secrets in the image layer.
And Azeez, one quick question. Within the Docker file, did you make room for like naming the image that is being built, or you're just relying on Docker to create a name for the image? Because there's nothing like -t here where you can get a tag onto it.
Yes, it is in the script. Remember when I was showing you in the script here, right? So
Yeah,
the script that I used to build the image, you can see here, Docker build -t.
Oh, it's within.
Image,
okay, it's within the
image
script.
name,
Okay.
image tag. So it's the same image, the same command we ran.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just
Cool.
doing it with a script now instead of, because if you have to type all this every single time you build your image, it's going to be very tedious.
Because I only wanted to see if within the script there was a room for creating giving it a name. That was all I wanted to see.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
So you can see now we've built our image. Again, Docker is giving you the error, sorry. It's giving you the warning that within this image, these values, the build argument and the environment, say showing up 4 times now. These are secrets. And even Docker is able to know that these are secrets that shouldn't be exposed. So if we go and check the layer images, let me just go back here, refresh here, and click on the nest. So you can see this is the new image with the layer, right? The new layer with the build argument. You can see the value of my personal access token is still showing up here, right? So anyone that has access to this image will have access to those secrets. So that is the second reason why we don't have the Docker file in that format. That format is good because it helps us not hard code anything in our Docker file, but it still didn't solve the layer issue, which brings us to the final version of the Docker file that I gave you guys last week, which is this version. So let me just close all of this. So, which brings us to this, right? It is still the same thing. Nothing has changed here. We still have our build argument and set to this environment variable, right? It's the same exact thing. The commands are the same. These are all the same exact thing. So you guys can see nothing changed here. I can, the only thing we add to this Docker file, which we already have it at the top of the other Docker file. So let me show you guys. This is the new Docker file, this one. And the one on the right is the last one, which we already even included. So how you can compare 2 files in Visual Studio Code is, this is the new Docker file. I'm going to right click on it and click select for compare. Then I'm going to right click on the other Docker file, the second one, and click compare with selected, right? You can see the difference. In the previous Docker file, we have the argument personal access token, RDS password, personal access token, RDS password, build argument. In the new one, which is the one you are seeing on the left, we have removed it. So it is no longer part of our build argument anymore. It is going to be added to our image as a secret, not as a build argument like that. So that's the only thing we have in the third Docker file version the final one that I showed you guys, right? So you can see those secret value has been removed.
So we wouldn't have those warning signs, and then in the layers, we will now be able to see the personal access token there. Is that it?
I believe so, yes. So we would not have, by the time we build this third Docker file, that where we remove this Docker image, this where we remove this personal access token and RDS password, we would not get the warning sign at the end of our build. And yes, we should not see those values in our layer. So here, only thing we did is we removed those values, those build arguments and the environment variable, and look at how we are now adding the values for those credentials to be able to clone, right? So here, and you guys can do more research on it. I don't understand 100%, right? But what we are using is Docker has like a build kit that allows you to temporarily use your secrets to get your secrets to build your image, but it won't add it to the layer, and you can clean everything up after building your image, right? So that's what this line is here. And I included it in every Docker file, but this is what, so when you have your syntax like this, it means you are going to be using that build kit to get the values of any value that's a secret. So that's the first thing we add here, right? Then here, what we are saying here is we are going to create a secret called personal access token. And that secret is going to, this is like an ID for it in build kit, in Docker build kit. So you guys can like look it up. So we'll create an ID for it, and that ID will be connected to this environment variable personal access token, right? Then where it would go get the value for it is here on our system. So that is how the command will work. Remember, we create an ID for it. That ID is connected to the environment variable personal access token. And where it will get the value for that is here. And the same thing for the RDS password. We create an ID for it, a build kit ID connected to the environment variable, and where it will get the value for it is here. That's all we need to do in our Docker file. So you can see the difference between version 2 and 3. So now the main thing is, let me close this. I already showed you guys that. So the main thing now is in our build script. Build script, right? Same thing I showed you on that version 2. We have the build arguments value, the ones we don't mind exposing, things like so I'm showing the same thing here. So let me show. So this is our Docker file. This is our build argument, the third version, right? So these are the build arguments we don't mind exposing, things like our project name, environment, record name, domain name, and things like that. So we have those here. You can see here, the RDS password is not here. The personal access token is not here, right? So our RDS password is stored in our secrets in Secrets Manager. So here I'm also showing you how to implement Secret Manager. Our RDS, yes. So someone's asking, yes, that's the same way you would do it during the CI/CD stages as well. Yes, exactly. So those passwords will be pulled from secrets. So most likely whatever secrets, whatever CI/CD environment we are using, because here in our project we'll be using GitHub Actions, we will get it from there. Yes. So remember our personal access token and RDS password is stored as a secret in Secret Manager here. Let me bring this here so you can see. It's stored as a secret here. So my personal access token here, RDS password here, right? So now here we are using AWS CLI command. So this is an AWS CLI command, which is AWS Secret Manager get secret. That is a CLI command. And we have the flag secret ID, which is the name of the secret. And we have the region where the secret is located, right? That is what you see here, where we have the secret name and region. So here we just put our secret name and our region. So when this command run, right, it is going to get the secret. When it gets the secret, it will be in JSON format. Remember when I showed you guys when we created the secret in project 2, this secret will come like this. It's like a JSON format, right? Where there's a key and there's a value, right? The key is username, the value is admin. Here, the key is password, the value is this. So when it gets it, when it gets it, it is going to come in a JSON. And you know we have a bunch of secrets in there. So we are just saying, in this JSON file, I want to get the value of personal access token. So what you see here is exactly what is here. I want to get the value of personal access token. You can see it's the same caps. You can mismatch the cap. Whatever way it is here, that's in your Secrets Manager, that's how you have to put it. So here, you can see personal access token and you can see password here. You can see password here. So you are saying, I want to, in that JSON file, I want to get the value of personal access token and I want to store it as this environment variable personal access token. I want to get the value of password and store it as this RDS password, right? So once you get it and you store it this way, remember this first part is just pulling it from Secret Manager and getting the value, right? And storing it as this. So once we now store the value as this, we are now using Docker build kit environment, right? And in Docker build kit environment, you are saying that the value you got from Secret Manager that you store as this, you are now storing it as secret, as this build kit to secret. So you can see it says personal access token secret, and you are creating a new variable, a build kit variable, personal access token secret, and you are storing it as whatever value you got here and whatever value you got here. That's what you see here. So now we are getting the secrets from Secret Manager, but storing it in the build kit, which is like a Docker's way of, like, let's just call it a Docker vault where you can store your secret to be able to build your image, right? So we are storing it here. And now to get those secrets during our build, remember here, when we created an ID for it, right? Personal access token is the same ID we are referencing here. And we are saying the environment, the build kit environment is personal access token secret, where we store the actual value. And we did the same thing. We did the same exact thing for personal access token, and we did the same exact thing for RDS password. Remember, it's the ID you gave it here. That's what you are having here. And where the value is, where the value is here, right? Whatever you called it here. So when it is getting the actual value from here, it already knows when you do this in build kit, this is the location where it will go and store it. So it already knows how to connect all that stuff. So now when we use it to build our image, here you can see our image is still the same. Our command is still the same thing. Docker build -t, image name, image tag, period, right? Then once we are done building our image, we remove those values from that we temporarily store in the environment variable. We remove it here. Not ChatGPT, Claude. Claude taught me this. Because when I was getting that warning and I didn't want to teach you guys with the warning thing, I said, okay, how can I build my image locally and still maintain the secrets? So this is one of the things you can use is Docker build kit. And this is how we build the image. This is how I end up on that script I gave you guys, right? So let me comment out the part to push the image, because the part to push the image is the same thing. It doesn't change. Let me just comment that part out.
I have a quick question. Maybe it's a little bit out of scope, but I think it's similar. In
Sure.
Azure DevOps, this process you just explained will be in the key vault, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it.
I'm not sure how Azure works, but Azure's key vault is probably the same as Secrets Manager, right?
Yeah.
But you will still need to pull the secrets from there into your local, because remember, we are building this image locally.
Yes.
So we'll still need to pull the image into our local area and still protect it and still find a way to pass it on to our
pass it to
Docker
that
build.
person.
Yeah.
It has a person command. Okay. All right,
So
gotcha.
that is what this Docker build kit allows us to do.
Yeah,
We get the secrets from now. Now where is our actual access token? I don't get where it is stored, right? Given that we are mounting it. So here, when we remember we pulled it from Secrets Manager and we got the actual value. And the actual value, once we got the actual value, we are now using Docker build kit and we are storing it. You can see here, this EMV, personal access token secret, that is the Docker build kit. So you can see the EMV here. This is the Docker build kit. You are seeing this Docker build kit that I'm creating this personal access token secret for. It will be equal to whatever value I got when I pull the secret from Secret Manager here, right? And the same thing for the password, right? So it will be equivalent to that. So once you do that, it already knows that it is going to store it here. So when Kevin, when you're asking where's the actual value will be here. That's where it will store it in your local area. So it knows how to do all the connection. So you just have to make sure once this is done, right? You can see here, personal access token, the ID we gave it is here. And we are pointing it to the build kit thing we did here. And once you do that, it knows where it stored it to go find it here, which is by default, it says it will be here.
The local.
Yeah. So that's how you make the claim. And I need to even do more research on it, but that is how Claude taught me that it should be done. All right. Perfect. So we have all this. So let's build this image one more time. So we would I'll right click here. This is my third one. Open integrated terminal. And I'm going to Docker build. I'm just going to /, then I'm going to run my script, which is build image. Build image. No. Build. Tab autocomplete. Press enter. It's now building the image. And while the image is building, one thing I want to point out is you guys didn't ask me. In our project 2, we put this part in our build in our script. Why are we putting it here in our script instead of putting it in the Docker file itself? The reason why you want to put this here is because it makes it simple, right? You can get the value, use build kit to add it to your image, and you are done. If you actually put this in your Docker image, you still have to give your Docker image access to your AWS environment, because you guys know the only reason why we're able to run this CLI command is because we already configured our IAM users credentials on our computer last week. So since I already configured it, I'm able to access my AWS environment. In our local Docker area that we are building, that would not have access to your AWS environment. So in that local area that is building now, this one you are seeing here that is building, you would have to configure, install AWS CLI, now configure your access key and secret access key, which now even create another security risk as it is. You understand? So that's why this whole process was removed from the image and just added into the build script. So once this is done, the only last thing we need to do is check our layer, and if everything is done properly, here we wouldn't see any warning, and in our layer we shouldn't see the personal access token or the password there. But when we are running our ECS container, everything will still work perfectly fine. Okay, so it's setting the permissions now, no error. Just wait for it to finish building, then we'll check. I got 4 minutes. But in the meantime, does anyone have any question? So please remember, there's no class next week because next week is an holiday here in the United States. It is Thanksgiving. So since it's a holiday, you guys enjoy your holiday with your family. We will be back the week after. So from now to then, work on perfecting your understanding of Docker. I have the knowledge check. You guys have access to that. Check everything with your knowledge check. Make sure you understand the Docker file, why we are doing certain things. Work on your homework assignment. So you have 2 weeks to work on your homework assignment, submit it. And when we return the next time, I will set on all the information to you guys, like I've done for the other projects before then. We'll start the Kubernetes project, and that will be the last hands-on project we will do. Then after that, we will start the automating everything we've done so far. The 4 projects we are going to do, well, we won't do the static one, but the dynamic one, we'll do the dynamic one. We will do all the dynamic, we will automate all the dynamic one with Terraform. So I'm even thinking about including the Kubernetes one too, as well. Once we run the Kubernetes in the management console, we'll also, I'll show you guys how to do the full deployment with Terraform, 100% deploy with Terraform. So,
quick question.
Yeah.
Would you touch on Prometheus for visualizing in the Kubernetes? Okay.
No, I won't. Yeah. So I'm not even, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know it, right? Because it's not, and I think Prometheus is like, you have to have access to it. It might be something where they charge you for if you enable it and not to install that stuff. So I'm not going to touch on that. So it's just going to be, my knowledge of Kubernetes and deploying is very like basic. Like I know how to deploy this same application we are talking about using EKS. That's about it. But I haven't gone further than that. So.
And Prometheus, you will need to integrate with Grafana as well. So it's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So
for the log.
Yeah.
Logging.
Yeah.
Logging.
It's gonna be a lot more.
Yeah. So our image is built. You can see no warning, right? So let's go to Docker and let me go back here and let me refresh here. And let me check that image. And you can see here, now my secrets is not exposed. You can see here, there's no personal access token and there's no RDS password. This is why I gave you guys this version of this image last week, right? The only other thing you guys were saying in the script is just checking error, right? It's just a simple thing. Like it's not, it's just like something you can add when your script is failing. For example, when we are including this process now, so that when we start building it in our CI/CD pipeline, if our Docker file failed at a certain point, the error will tell us at what point where it failed. So that way we will know, okay, this is where we need to look. So the error is just simple. Well, in this version that I'm showing you now, it is simple, but in the other one, it is just saying like, if this command fails, I'm running this command, I'm checking this, if this last command that I ran, if it was successful. If it was successful, it moves on to the next one. If it is not, it will tell you failed to retrieve secret. So in this one, it's simple, but I think I want to make it like the last version. So the error checking, you guys just look at it, see how it is done. You will see the logic with every command. You'll see the logic, but it is not something you need to worry about. Because even me, I don't know how to, in the script, I don't know 100% how to write the if else. I just ask Claude to help me review it, make sure everything is right. So just know this is just statement to error check. It is not as important. The important thing is the concept of everything we did, from the basic Docker file to me showing you how we end up with the build arguments and how to build your Docker image without exposing your secrets. So that's the key thing. And with that, that's pretty much it. I'm done. Is one. But Adewale, go ahead. I probably can stay for like 10 more minutes, answer any questions. But
Hey,
Adewale, go ahead.
oh, thank you so much, Aziz. I really love this session. Thank you for everything you've put into this. And my contribution is more of a contribution or perhaps question too, is that what you have done, given my experience at workplace, we have also tried to build our Docker images in such a way that we don't expose our secrets. And the solution we went for is to make sure that our environment variables are not baked into the Docker image. Like some of the things you have shared, I wish people will really put those things to mind, like those security concerns when your secrets are exposed in your Docker images. So in a way to prevent that, given at where I am and my experience, what we did is to make sure that our environment variables are not baked into our Docker image, but use them during runtime, if that makes sense. And even I can do a version of this same project given the holiday period we have, like a week, and probably show how we did that, so that we build our images without any environment variables in them, but when running the image as container, that is at that point we pass our variables, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make a lot of sense. So what Adewale said is true, which is how a lot of people would do it at work too, right? When your container is spinning up, you are actually getting the actual value and passing it in, right? So I showed it this way. This way, you can still do it this way just to allow you to build your image locally. And also, you can always adjust everything on the fly too when your container is spinning up in ECS. So Adewale, yeah, that would be nice. If you can make a video for it, just like the demo, I can post it and I share the link with everyone.
That would be beautiful.
That would be helpful, because then you'll be
How do
teaching me
you
something too
put the
as well.
assignment to the Google Drive quickly?
What did you say?
How do you put the assignment to the Google Drive if you did the assignment?
So in the Google Drive, you just in the Google Drive here. Hold on, let me find it. you should have access to it already. So there's the Google Drive. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's like the project 3 assignment submission. Oh wow, some of you guys already did it. Oh, good job. So here you should have access to this. So just upload however you want to upload it. So you can see how most people are doing it. They just do their take a screenshot in PDF. Thank you guys for doing this. This is very detailed. Thank you guys for doing it. You know, guys, what I'm thinking is, and I do review this, right? So I'm thinking of, I'm going to get everyone that's been submitting the assignment from project 1 to project 3. There'll be like a score, a point system. And at the end of the class, you guys will have like a final project you guys are going to do on your own. And I think I'm really going to even do a different application that is not PHP. It will be Node.js, is it Node.js? Yeah, Node.js application, right? It will be the same concept, but it will just be a different type of application. So you have to research how you're going to do it. So basically, you're going to have a final project. And at the end, I'm going to have something for someone. Something related to cloud thing. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking maybe like a MacBook Pro, but like I'm going to have a point system, and whoever came up first at the end, I'm going to try to at least support you with your cloud laptop. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about doing. So I definitely appreciate everyone that's been doing the assignment. I mean, thank you. It is, and I do review this. So thank you guys for at least taking it serious. Makes me feel like I'm not just doing all this work in vain. So,
You're definitely not doing it in vain, believe us.
okay. Thank you. Good to know. Good to know. Because sometimes I don't get feedback. I've got feedback from some of you guys, which I appreciate, but sometimes the main thing is like you guys learn and are able to increase your skills. I mean, learn all this because this is what I know. This is what I'm using at work. This is what's helping me. So, as long as I'm able to help you guys get further closer to your goal, I've done my job. So yeah, so here you should have access to this project 3 assignment. So just create either your Word document or your PDF with your screenshots and upload it in here. All right. I have 4 more minutes. Does anyone have any question? Okay.
Not really a question, just to encourage everyone and yourself that you're doing an amazing job, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
For me, for one, yes, I do appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody appreciates it. That's why we keep coming back week after week. Thank you, Azeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, it really makes me happy to see how much you guys have been learning. I mean, what you guys have been doing. So thank you to you guys. It goes both ways. Yeah, thank you. It goes both ways. Um, I am happy to see that you guys are actually learning a lot, to be able to break the concept down to you guys in a simple way that you guys see that, you know what, this is something I can do. It's really not that difficult. It's just, if something seems difficult, just break it down into smaller steps and takes those smaller steps, and it's those small knowledge that turns into like a big knowledge. You know, it's really not difficult, honestly. So, and you guys will see once we start doing Terraform, it's even fun. Right? All these things we've done, we'll be able to deploy every single thing with Terraform. And I'm talking about 100% with Terraform. No, there's no parts of it where we would have to touch anything. Once our Terraform code is done, we'll be able to deploy every single thing. So thank you guys. I'm happy with how everything is going. And yeah, just keep up the good work.
Okay.
Thank you for this.
You say you have 4 more minutes. I think you're left with 2.
2, I have 2, yeah.
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 My
So
wife is
let's say,
already here knocking on the door because she gotta go somewhere and I have to babysit. So yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
so
feel
let's say if you were in an interview and they ask you to talk about something, so you could talk about this project that we're deploying with the Docker from start to finish. That would be something that you would present to the interviewers.
Yes. So what I'll tell you guys is I'm saying it here, I don't care. I'll say it here, right? Unless if your company already, whoever is interviewing you already knows that you did projects, right? When I explain this to someone, I don't talk about it like it's a project that I did. I talk about it as if I did it for somebody. I did it as a work experience. You understand? So don't say I did a project where I deployed this. What's your work experience with it? Yeah, I've worked on several applications for some of my clients, and this is what I built. You are not lying because what I'm showing you guys is how it's done in the production environment. You guys saw everything with the secret. So you are not lying by your skill is your skill. If you know how to do something, you know how to do it. Whether you did it in a project or you did it for someone, it shouldn't matter. So speak of it as if it is a work experience that you have. And if you guys don't have any IT work experience, like that's like another topic, but there's ways around that, right? For example, you guys want to know how I got my first job? I had the other company that I had, like the other thing that I was doing before, like other small business that I was running, that I was trying to teach. I was teaching people. It was card design. So it was my business. I created my website on AWS using some of these services. But then I just used WordPress and EC2. And I talked about it. So in my mind, I talked about it as if I was working for someone. So when they asked me, I said, yeah, I worked on this. And I just had my cousin who was also partnering with me, and I just used him as my boss, and he gave me reference. So I don't want to be telling you guys like, trust me, it's not cheating, because what will be wrong is if you don't know a skill and you put it on your resume. But if you know how to do something, if you gauge how the company is, because some of them can be condescending. If you see that they look down on saying you did it on a project, don't list it on your thing as, I'm telling you guys now, don't list it on your thing as if you did a project. List it as a regular work experience. And just find someone to give you reference. I'll give you guys reference if you want. But my thing is you gotta be able to prove to me that you know how to do it. I'm not going to give you reference if you're just winging it. But based on speaking with you, I can tell whether someone knows what they are talking about or not. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah. At least I have a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for everything you do. Yeah. But my domain name got expired, so I had to renew it and have done most of the project, but I keep on having this SSL problem showing that it's not secured. The website shows up, but I don't know what the problem is. Like I've tried to debug it and it's not really.
Did you in your SSL, did you when you register it, is it what's the word? Is it showing that it is registered?
Yes, it is, yeah. And also I use ACM to get it get the certificate.
Get the certificate. Oh yeah. So here you can contact AWS support. And I think that's the only thing AWS provides support for. So here,
Okay.
just type support.
Okay.
Right. So when you type support here for the basic account, so technical. So technical, right here. And I think for the service, you can find Route 53. And I can do more research. Let me do more research for you. Email me or message me on Slack so I know who I'm talking to, and I can help you find it. But I think they have something here. See all cases. So I think they have something here where you can ask them about your Route 53 specifically, because yeah, a lot of people have those questions from time to time, and they should be able to help you resolve it. So it might have to do with your billing, it might have to do with something in your account. So it's just something you need to reach out to them support.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
We have to create a case and
yeah.
select the appropriate one there.
Yeah, it used to be, yeah, I used to find where to find it, but now I can't remember because they probably moved around. But I can do a quick research. Just message me on Slack so I know it's you, and I'll show you the steps to message them. They'll help you. They'll help you resolve it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem. All right, guys. I do have to go.
Azeez, if you could call me maybe during the course of the week on Slack, I'd like to talk to you one-on-one, please.
Is that Mr. Abel?
No,
Yeah,
right.
Mr. Ibrahim is here, still here.
I know. I'm sorry. I hope
That's
Mr.
fine.
Abel.
It's
I
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
totally understand. I know at the point you're gonna call,
I'll call you. I promise. I'll call
I
you.
don't. Yeah.
So who was the other person that said to call?
Right.
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 That's me.
Mr. Wright.
That's me.
Yeah.
All right. So can you in that our cohort channel, can you guys please put your name there? Remember to call. Just remember to call your name so that way I know who I need to call this week. Okay.
All right, we'll do that.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you, everyone. And I do
you.
apologize that I'm procrastinating on that, but I'll get to it. I promise.
Well, that's fine. We
That's
know
fine.
you're very busy, Azeez, so we can
Appreciate
understand.
All right. You
Okay.
guys can already hear my baby. My wife
Yeah,
already dropped him off. So
Thank you,
all right.
Azeez. Thank you,
thank you
Okay.
so much.
guys.
Thank you.
All right.
I came.
Thank
Happy
Thank you.
holiday, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgivings, everyone. Happy
You
Thank
holiday.
too.
you,
Thank you
Mr.
so much.
Aziz.
I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take
Same
care
to
now.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. On YouTube. Thank you guys. Bye. No problem, sir. Thank you guys. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So make sure you complete your assignment and turn. It's okay, Papa. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks and have a good one. Bye.